Welcome back to my channel, everybody. So again, I'm on my lunch break. We're going to continue this. I don't know if he's a subscriber. If you are, hey, peace, thanks for the love and the support. If not, hey, you can subscribe to me because I think you kind of shot out some questions and I love it. I love the dialogue. I'm super excited because, like I said, I'm learning all of this, so you guys are helping me learn. And I think by engaging in these conversations, it's going to get us to start thinking about the upcoming projected new SRT variants coming out. So let's talk about that GLH, because he had a lot of great questions, and I'll link his screen name up here. But the first question was basically, do you think that the GLH will be a car that needs a Hurricane 6? And that's a good question, because when you're going in the past, you know that the Omni GLH was in the 1980s, and they had from 84, 85, and 86. So as these cars use the inline-4, you're looking at the horsepower, and over the years from 84, the horsepower was standard at 110 horsepower, and then it kind of moved up to 146, and then the 1986 version, I think, was up to 176 horsepower. Weights kind of went up slightly over the years, but bottom line, these cars range from 2,200 to about 2,290, I think 2,290 pounds when I was reading it. So I think back then, yes, because this is, you got to think, these was the late 80s. This car was known for its boxy kind of fox body, kind of crossover hatchy kind of thing. So it was very, very popular. So I think, to answer your question, certainly Dodge can come back here, put an inline-4 in there, but that would be the safe way to go. And I think my fear would be, because you remember, the Hornet didn't do good, the freaking Caliber didn't do good, the SRT Caliber didn't do good. So safely going with the inline-4, I don't know if that is going to be enough to get this GLH out and about. You remember, Tim Kuniskis specifically stated in multiple interviews that they want to push these engines. They want to push to see how hard and aggressive they can be. So is it possible to put an inline-4 in? Absolutely, because they've done it in the past, but it's not going to bring anything new to the table. And I don't think that it's going to be accepted, because everybody's going to say, you know what, you're just doing a spin-off, you're just basically revamping the package, and you're dishing out another Hornet when we didn't accept that in the beginning. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now, if you go with the inline-4, so yes, you're looking at 268 horsepower. If you know, I think it's around 295 foot-pound of torque. I have no problem with that. I think, again, safe. You could safely do that. But that 2.0 liter engine is already in the Hornet. But I think certainly you can do that, because it's going to be a crossbred between entry level, like a hot hatch, versus a sporty compact. So I think it's possible. Now the second option, if we're going to go down that pathway, would be looking at the GLH SRT version. So you'll get the high output that gives you about, what, 324 horsepower. So now you're going to cross into, this is going to be the direct competitor to the Civic R, the Type R, the, what's the other one called? Oh my God, it slipped my mind, because my son's always talking about it. The Volkswagen, I think the Volkswagen Golf R. Don't quote me on that, but it's going to be the direct competitor for that. So I think, would that allow for a more diverse group of people to now get into Dodges? Absolutely. But when we're looking at it, what is that population? How much of that pie are these specific people who like this type of car going to actually purchase the vehicle? And is it going to be enough to kind of generate and keep this production, or keep this basically from being produced and selling? So you have to look at who's it going to appease. You made a very good point when you said that Dodge is not basically trying to come out to be mass market, but they're more going to be low volume with basically more expensive things. And that's absolutely, I think that's why they came out with this Fast Line 2030 approach, because they know, hey, we're going to target what actually sells, and what sells is the V8s. Okay, so we look back in history right now, it's not the inline-6s, they're not selling right now, it's newer technology. Now, do I think that this STLA1 platform is the foundation and eventually we're going to see a lot of this coming? Oh, absolutely, because technology is forever evolving. You're getting more horsepower with these standard output, these higher output inline-6. So I think that it's coming that way. But again, we don't like change. Okay, basically human nature, you don't like change. So you're going to have to slow walk people into that, but at the same time, you're going to have to appease some of people's personal idiosyncrasies for them to like something. You have to entice them. So yes, you're right, Dodge is not worrying about selling mass production stuff. They're worried about low volume that's going to make a bigger bang for the buck. But that's going to allow them, if they're smart, to make something a non-V8 that will also bring in money. Because for any business person, you want to capitalize on what's going to be filling your pockets more. I know one point you were saying too that Chrysler is basically coming out with their own lines to be, you know, things in the sub 30s, and that's good. But if you're looking at over history, I don't think that Chrysler is going to be the savior of all, even though they have, yes, these sub $30,000 vehicles. But I think who's going to lead the bandwagon, who's going to be the forerunner, is going to be Ram and Dodge, because history, in my opinion, it repeats itself. Now, to play devil's advocate, I am with you because you made a great point, and I it's kind of alluding to my video when I said it's going to be very hard for Dodge to put an inline-6 making 420 horsepower and selling that bad boy under $35,000 because it's a very expensive technology. So it's probably going to be I would say in the 40s. Again, is that going to shoot them in the foot because people are not going to want to buy that car? There's a possibility for that. So to kind of play devil's advocate, then Dodge would have to say, okay, is it more feasible to do an inline-4 versus an inline-6? But again, is that going to be enough to push this out for people to accept it? And again, that's a tight spot. That is a tight spot for Dodge to be in. And I would be very scared to make that decision, because I'm like, man, do I have a job? Do I not have a job? Right? That's what basically it comes down to. Now, the reason why I would go for an inline-6 is because you're living up to that brotherhood. Again, it's going to distinguish between the Hornet and all the caliber that people didn't want in the past. So automatically it's going to be like, oh yes, Dodge is doing something that they are pushing the boundaries with these newer technologies. They're going to say basically all or nothing. And you're looking at the inline-4, and then you're looking at the inline-6. When it comes to the balance of the thing, inline-4, you're going to have a shaky kind of thing. This inline-6 is going to be a more stable, smooth driving experience. So that's definitely going to sell because the car is small, you got all this power, but it's going to have more stability than when you compare it to the inline-4. Just my opinion. The other thing is, remember, people don't like, I'm one of them. I think the inline-6 is fantastic, but people don't like the noise. It's not aggressive. So inline-4 versus inline-6, people are going to be more enticed with the inline-6 as the inline-4 because, you remember, majority of the pie is V8 lovers. And then the other point that I wanted, because we can go on and on and on, and I love it. I'm so excited that we're having a conversation here. Hopefully this video goes out, because for some reason my videos are not cranking out. Come on, we got to get this video out. But the other thing that we have to consider is the aftermath possibilities, the aftermarket, right? Because it already has that 3.0, that high output engine. So it will be easy for Dodge to sit here and capitalize on that and have direct connection stage kits, just like they do with everything else. So, hey, you want this, but you want to upgrade it, here is a stage kit that we already have for you that you can purchase, hey, with the warranty. See, those are the things from a business standpoint that I am considering. So again, is the i4 safe? Will it work? Oh, absolutely. Is the i6 unhinged and going into territories that if they can do this correctly, will blow it out of the water? Hands down, absolutely. Again, you have to look at price, you have to look at the practicality of it. Now let's go into some cons with the Inline-6. So again, like you said, you hit it on the head when you said it's super expensive. So do I think that they're going to be around $35,000? Not unless they are willing to compromise and say, okay, we're going to sell it for $35,000, and we're going to figure out that it's going to be better because we're going to sell more in sales. So we're going to take that L with selling it at a lower price because we're going to get more. Maybe that's an option. I don't know from a business standpoint. I guess somebody can let me know. The other thing that we need to consider with an Inline-6, it's heavy. Okay, so you're putting a 430-pound block in this smaller car or hatch, whatever you want to call it. So it's going to be around 3,500 pounds. So that's going to make it very top heavy. It's going to make it worse, like the understeering, all of those things. So if Dodge is going to go and think about an Inline-6, so here's where I'm thinking, instead of just being safe and just throwing it out there like they've done in the past with the Caliber, the Hornet, they did it with the EVs. You have all these years right now. You still got years because you said it's not coming out anyway until a couple of years. So that's when you get your engineering team to come together and you're looking how you can, from a structural, mechanical point, re-engineering, redesigning it to say, you know what, we can do this Inline-6, but we're going to already accommodate for the understeering. We're going to accommodate for X, Y, and Z because we did the research this time. We didn't just throw it out there. And again, that's an engineering thing. I am not an engineer. I'm in medicine, so hey, I'm boo-boo the fool when it comes to that stuff. But if you think about it, if they change up the direction of the engine, right? So if they're shifting to a longitudinal thing, maybe that will work for the Inline-6. Again, I don't know. I'm just thinking when I'm doing all the research. So yes, you're going to compromise the shifting to rear-wheel drive or rear-biased all-wheel drive. But is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. The second thing is extending the front dash to the axle ratio. So those are things you can do. And then the third one, when I looked up, it's like tilt and recede the block itself. Again, one of the benefits, and I think that's where Tim and them are going, is because they're using the STLA platform. That platform is going to allow structural flexibility, so it can work. It just is going to take time for them to revamp, redesign that. And I think if they do that, if this time they actually sit here, have a huddle, and they figure that out, I think it can work. But if they play it safe with that GLH and they put that Inline-4 in there, I mean, my opinion, I don't think it's going to sell because history repeats itself. But let me know what you're thinking. You can kind of tag, because this video was specifically for you. Hopefully I kind of gave you some of my thoughts. Hopefully I didn't ramble too much, but this is like a dating app where you're going really fast because I'm in between my lunch. So let me know and I will talk to you in another video.